Hello. Did you know that 7 out of 10 doctors recommend the ArtsFam podcast to their patients who need fun in their lives? It's true. Don't go anywhere.
Stay tuned. Hi, and welcome to the ArtsFam podcast.
The only show of its kind where one host has to coordinate the color of his tie with his other co-host's hair.
Hi.
No,
well,
but
I
aside
make up.
from that, it's also the only show of its kind that spotlights the arts and entertainment scene in Southern Maryland.
We're your hosts, Lindsey Pommerenck and James LePore.
Correct.
And every week we bring you a list of all the fun things you can do right here in Southern Maryland. But also, we do an amazing interview with a local artist or entertainer, as you're always saying, James.
There is more to do here in Southern Maryland than you have time to do.
Absolutely.
Don't even challenge us on
Oh
that.
my God.
We'll prove it.
Don't do it, because James, knowing James, he'd come up with like 20 events the next week if somebody said, oh, there's not enough to do. He'd be like, want to bet?
That's how that whole thing started back in 2010. People used to say, or say to my kids in high school, like, there's nothing to do in Southern Maryland. And then when I had my first show, I'm like, there's so much to do. How you can't even do it all. So
Speaking of fun things to do and this amazing guest, we are here with the cast and the director of A Raisin in the Sun that's playing right now at the Port Tobacco Players in La Plata. James, do you want to do the honors? Start the introductions of our guests?
absolutely. To my right is the director, Jeremy Keith Hunter. Hello, Jeremy.
How you doing? I'm dope. Figure we should start off with that.
Now
Yeah.
that that's out of the way.
Now that that's out of the way, I am the director of Raisin in the Sun, and I'm very happy to be here.
Hi, I'm Marley Ferguson. I play Ruth in Raisin in the Sun.
Hi, I'm Dion Belk, and I play Mama Lena Younger in Raisin in the Sun. Glad to be here.
Hello, my name is Andre, and I play Walter Lee Younger.
My name is Angela, and I play Beneatha.
So, Jeremy,
See,
I have a question for you.
yeah.
I was very touched by your director's notes in the program. In particular, I want to get this right, quote, the people in this play are proud. They are energetic and funny and smart. They carry conservative and liberal values. They are every bit as loving, joyful, and passionate as they are worn, disheartened, and exhausted, close quote. That's awesome. What is it about this family, in the context of the play, that allows them to focus on the positive qualities rather than the many, many negative ones?
I think the play isn't about the negative. I think we, as a society, look for the negative. In in popular culture, when you watch, a This Is Us or a Shameless or whatever your brand of TV is or movies, it's the drama that excites you, that draws you in, and naturally, Raisin in the Sun is full of that. However, I feel the problem is you don't focus on the love that's surrounding it. I feel like Lorraine Hansberry wrote a play about a loving family that just happened to be in this particular moment of their lives going through a storm, going through some drama. And the play is about that drama and how they navigate it and how they move through it. However, at the core, at the base of it, this is a family that loves each other, that wants to help each other, that believes in each other, and they're just they're a little discouraged. We've had lots of wonderful conversations at the table before we actually started putting movement to everything, about like how long it had been since Big Walter had passed, where everybody is in their state of grief and depression, and what exactly, what does this money mean for everybody individually? You know what I mean?
It just occurs to me, too, before we go any farther,
Yeah.
would you mind giving a little synopsis of the show? Because I know you mentioned the money, and people out there are probably saying, like, money? What money?
Sure. Raisin in the Sun is a classic written by Lorraine Hansberry. And the play is essentially about this family who are set to inherit a check for $10,000. The play is set in the 50s, so $10,000 at that time was money. And they're set to receive it from the life insurance policy of Walter Sr., Mama's husband, who we have decided passed recently within the last year or so. And everybody has an idea of what's to be done with this money. And the only person we really don't see have any kind of reaction to it is Mama, of course, who's kind of the the arbiter of everyone in the house. And as Ruth is Walter's husband, characters. As Ruth is stepping into Mama's position, we get to see the family dynamics of what to do with this money, what this money is going to mean for everybody.
Cool.
That's fair, right? That's
Yeah,
a fair
no,
synopsis,
very
right?
well-
that's
well
good.
said.
Yeah,
Thank
all right.
you.
CZZ.
Okay, so the title Raisin in the Sun,
Yeah.
which I'm sure everybody's wondering what that means. That comes from a Langston Hughes poem called Harlem, and it says, quote, "What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun?" Close quote. Now, knowing what you know now, if you could choose a different title for this play, what do you think it would be?
Woo! Okay.
They pay me the big money to
Yeah,
write
yeah,
these
yeah.
like in-depth questions, you know?
If I had to choose a different title for A Raisin in the Sun, I would probably have to call it A Dream Deferred.
Oh, good. See, that wasn't tough, was it?
Yeah, it was for like a good 3 seconds. I'm like, yo, I hope you had an answer ready.
We like to keep the guests on edge right now.
All right.
Not ready.
All right. So, Angela, you play Beneatha. So, speaking of dreams deferred, Beneatha has big dreams that were no doubt more difficult to realize than for women of today. What qualities do you think Beneatha possesses that helps her to hold true to herself, finding her identity while guiding her through the cultural complexities of the 1950s?
Yeah, there's a lot. I guess I'll start with
We've got time.
I guess I'll start with Jeremy, as we were rehearsing, would call Beneatha a Spitfire a lot, and that was something that I was trying to work on, and I hope I did justice.
Yes,
with,
you did.
On the show.
Oh my God. Yes. Yes.
And when I imagine, Spitfire, I actually don't know like the proper definition. Like if I had to give a Google definition, right? I think of like, this fire, this kind of like, she is hot-headed and she has this kind of flame that keeps her going despite like this kind of adversity. When you have, I think a very pointed moment is George coming in and saying, "Hey, hun, you're pretty. That's all you need because you're a woman, Yeah. And probably she's experiencing that in so many different ways her whole entire life. I can imagine based on my experience as a woman. And whatever that thing is within her that just kind of keeps that fire lit, like if you imagine like an engine or something, right? That just keeps her going. And I think probably this sense of like her wanting to make a change, do something different, recognizing there was a part of her when she sees, Rufus get hurt when she's younger, and then eventually the doctor's able to fix him up, and she's like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be a doctor because I can do something tangible to fix the problems in the world. I definitely relate to that, feeling kind of there are just so many things that need fixing, and it's nice when you can, sometimes it's just for you to be able to kind of find something tangible that you can do to make a little bit of a difference. And then also getting to a place where, okay, well that's, obviously not enough because that's not going to fix all the problems. And then also coming back to that and being like, well, I am just one person. This like mixture of like choosing to be something that seems so out of reach for a young Black woman in this time period, because she wants to make a difference, and then having this kind of fire in her that just keeps her going. And so I think I went on a bit of a tangent, but I hope I answered.
No, it was lovely. So let's actually, I wanted to circle back for a second to what you said about, especially, and clearly it's a feeling that has never gone away. That feeling that a lot of young people have, that helplessness of this world is so broken, this world is so torn, all of these atrocities. What do I do? How do I hold that and not just kind of fold in on myself into the abyss. Like, how do you stare into the abyss and not just fall into it, right?
Yeah.
So I love that that was a part of your character journey, that you got to really explore that. And I think it's so important, especially for younger people of today, in a world where social media is king. And now more than ever, we have it thrown in our faces. Look at all these horrible things that back then people would have had no concept of, because they're happening thousands upon thousands of miles away. So yeah, I love that you brought that to the forefront, and that you as director, Jeremy, you encouraged her and you guided her to bring that to the forefront of this narrative, because there's so many moments in this play where, yeah, it's literally like every little, you know, dinner conversation topic you could think of that a family would have at a dinner table. You guys explore every single one. So this is a show that, while, for you viewers to know, while this is not an easy watch, and it deals with very mature topics and mature themes, this is something that, depending on how you choose to parent your kids, that I feel maybe, what do you think, Jeremy? 10 years old, maybe? Maybe a little older? Like, what do you think?
I'd probably say he was good at like 12, 13.
Okay, so 12, 13. Yeah, so if that's, you know, something you're open to as a parent, bring those 12, 13 and up with you. And, you know, before you sit down, have that conversation that, hey, this is a part of history. And sadly, this is a part of the world that we still live in. And how do we take this story and how do we learn from this? Because that's what truly beautiful art is supposed to do, right? And that's what you guys have done. And you guys continue to do every single performance. James and I saw this on press night, and it was take your breath away. You know, it truly was.
I cried. I'm sure I'll cry every time I come back to see it again. Real things that I lived through myself.
Yeah.
It's like seeing it right up there on stage.
Speaking of, you had a story you wanted to tell me before I ask the lovely Dion a question.
Well, first of all, Dion, congratulations on your nomination for the 2023 Watch Award. That's outstanding. What show was that, by the way?
Old Settler.
Okay,
Old
great.
Settler.
I mean, Lindsey and I talked about it after we saw the show, and believe me, that is not the last time that all of you folks are going to be hearing about the Watch Awards. Yeah. If they make me a judge, I'm going to be all over the show. But Dion, the one thing I really, really wanted to tell you in particular, like growing up, my best friend, who still is a black man, Edmund Austin, and his mother, Callie Austin, yes, Mrs. Austin, I'm talking about you, always treated me like a member of the family. I was always over for, you know, family gatherings and things like that. When I grew up and got married and had kids, she started daycare in her house. So both of my daughters, Amanda and Tia, when they were like 1 to 3, went to Mrs. Austin's daycare and got that same kind of vibe that I felt you give your character when speaking to your kids. And one of the reasons why I had tears in my eyes, it just was bringing me back to when I was a kid and when Amanda was a kid and Tia was a kid, that I could hardly wait till the next day when I could call her and just tell her that I loved her. So you made that character more real to me than you know. Now you can ask your question.
Wow.
Oh my God.
That's
No pressure. But yeah, so I will second what James said. Watching you, it was the quintessential powerful matriarch, you know, that she is not without flaw, but every choice she makes is one that is ultimately made out of love. And the best that she feels that is the best for her family. And watching the way that her family honors her, you can tell that the character is written and directed to where the family doesn't honor her out of, oh, I have to. It's out of pure love and respect. So let's move on to the wonderful question James actually wrote for you. Sorry, I was gushing.
Thank you.
Anyways.
I appreciate it.
You know we like this show.
Oh my God, yeah. No, it was terrible. Honestly, it was a horrible show. Oh, okay.
We're gonna cut that out.
Okay, your character, Dion, represents a very strong guiding light for the family in spite of the history of the family's mistreatment. As a modern Black woman, how difficult do you think it was for Mama and the younger family to hold their heads up high?
I think it was extremely difficult in one respect, but I think the resilience that is on the DNA, it's natural at the same time. There are moments where you do feel gut punched, but it propels you forward. It makes you want to do things different and bigger, like Mama Lena says. Okay, this happened. We're going to get back up and we're going to do it better. And we're going to do it with a deep abiding love with one another. So hard, but natural. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. Even when you talk about your ancestors that went through so much, it was never a sense of, oh, you know, poor me, poor family. Not at all. It was like you powered through that, and now you are the woman you are today.
Yeah, and that builds the strength and the bond, for sure.
So, follow-up question.
Yeah.
How does it compare to the complexities of guiding a family of today?
It's very similar.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, there are other challenges now.
Yeah.
I imagine if Walter had to see TikTok or Facebook or Instagram and had to think about all the things that he was missing out on. So triple the experience he felt driving by those nice restaurants.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe even quadruple.
Absolutely.
So you're still dealing with the idea that it's out there for me and I can almost touch it, but yet there are still barriers.
Yeah.
So it's very much the same.
Yeah, the whole idea of the haves and the have-nots.
Absolutely. And what could be.
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually talking to my little sister about this today, about how painfully relevant the core message of the show is. And it shouldn't be as painfully relevant. I mean, this was written how many years ago, you know, right? Like, and how there is such this gatekeeping mentality in America of, oh, you were born into this specific situation and society does everything it can to keep you there. And it is absolutely gut-wrenching to see that performed on stage, up close and personal. You can't hide when it's being performed in front of your eyes like that. You can hide, you can scroll past the TikTok talking about someone's experience. You can change the channel, you can whatever, but you can't hide when you're in a theater like this. And I say that with like the utmost admiration of what it is that you guys are doing.
And you know what? Nobody goes through more transformations than Walter, played by Andre. So I've got 3 questions for you, just to make you squirm a little bit. Okay, so your character, Walter, goes through several different periods of growth and transformation, right? So tell me, how does he change during the play from start to finish?
Well, to start, he begins to play very just idealistic. He has this idea, this dream in his mind, revolving around the settlement that's coming in from his father's death. From there, he just goes off on this mental tangent of like all the wonderful things that can come from this investment that he wants to make. And he doesn't really take into account how everybody else feels about it, you know? It's just like, this is my idea. Why is everybody not on board? Y'all are weird. And that's what it is. And it gets to a point where he says some really odd stuff to his wife. Just kind of like putting it nicely, putting it mildly, borderline misogynistic, if not completely misogynistic.
It's misogynistic, bro. As a director,
it's completely misogynistic.
Andre, what is driving that ambition that Walter has?
At the end of the day, he wants to do right just do great for his family. He wants to support his family. He loves his wife, his child, his mother, his sister. He wants to like be a provider properly, like he saw his father do. And with that in mind, and he just feels like he's not able to do that, that wears on somebody's self-worth, their sense of self. And when somebody's sense of self is questioned, they go to a very dark place. Almost like a place of desperation at times, as you will see in the show.
Like a feeling like you had to do as good a job as your just recently deceased father did for all of you.
Essentially. And if you can't meet that standard,
right,
what good are you, basically?
It's completely understandable. If you could offer your character, you as Andre, offer Walter one piece of advice, what do you think it would be, and how would it impact or change his decisions?
Easy. Never trust anybody named Willie.
There
Literally, nothing good comes from that.
To understand that, but yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's a Willie watching right now who's like, hey.
You especially. In seriousness, though, just you need to slow down. You need to take into account the example you are setting for not just as the patriarch of your family, but your son is growing up around this turmoil. He has to know that something's kind of off with his parents. He has to know that there's some kind of like, I mean, he even knows when his dad is drunk.
Oh, yeah.
You need to like be blessed with what you have and just don't put so much weight on things. Be present, be a father. Just don't be a sellout.
Awesome. Let me pass this over to Marley, who I'm sure Lindsey's got some interesting things to ask.
I mean, you would know because you wrote them. Mr. Question Extraordinaire. All right, so Marley. Your character is stuck in the middle between a strong mother figure and a sometimes hard-headed and determined husband. How difficult do you think it was for your character to uphold and respect both sides?
I write these questions. I don't fool around.
Just takes you out, doesn't it?
Extremely. That's the answer. You know, the 60s was a time where being a wife was like no game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You were to honor your husband, even if he made like no sense at all. And you were to keep your kid in hand. And I think that Ruth loves her husband. And I think when they met, it was love. When they met, it was foundation. And she loves her husband. I mean, she acknowledges that he is going through something. But also, some of the stuff he's doing doesn't make sense.
No.
And, you know, the 50s was a time where, like, divorce was an option. But I think after, you know, all right. All right. It's an option. I think it also, you know, she loves her son. She loves being a mom. But also, it's heavy stuff. It's tough trying to parent and work and with your marriage being in the place that it is to keep that all in hand. I think she's really just, is one harder than the other? Probably not. I think it's just tough right now. You know, love is in action. And right now her love is being tested and she's trying to do it as intentionally as possible with what she has. And that it probably is hard to do right now with, you know, her husband not being as present as a father as he could be. But I wouldn't say one is harder than the other.
So, I mean, to watch what you just described, those complexities unfold on stage with your character, it was so beautiful and so authentic. As a woman who's been married now for 10 years, hi honey, love you. Marriage is not for the faint of heart, right? Like you said, love is an action, and I feel like so often in a day and age like today where, you know, the microwave generation, whatever you want to call it, it's the second this doesn't suit me, you're immediately done. So to watch your character not throw in the towel immediately. And there were times I'm sitting there watching it, James and I are watching, and I'm thinking, dear God, why is this woman putting up with this nonsense? Like, girl, know your worth and get out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
but on the other hand, I'm also sitting there. The other part of my brain is like, no, mad respect. She's seeing her husband not just as a man, but she's seeing him as her best friend.
Yeah.
She's seeing him as her one and, her true love.
Yeah.
Seeing him fundamentally as a human who has struggles, who has brokenness, who has flaws, who has pain. That, well, she has her own of those. She can't possibly fathom what his are, same way he can't fathom what hers are.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you, honey.
Thank you.
Being able to make the audience feel that tension. It was palpable, and I don't have words
Thank you.
to describe to
This
you.
is probably the most real feeling play
Yes.
that I can remember in the longest time.
Absolutely.
And believe it or not, this is Jeremy's first time
Yeah,
directing,
directorial
which is, like,
debut.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. So, hi, Southern Maryland. You need to make sure he directs more. You have no excuses now. You've seen what he can do.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, follow up, Marley. What would be your advice for Ruth to help her navigate through this time in her life?
Pray.
Yes. Yes. A lot of it.
Journal.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And own her feelings.
Yes.
Yes. So I think back then women didn't have a voice. Yeah. But if, own your feelings. Hey, I love you, and I see you're going through it, but I'm about 2 seconds from pushing you down some stairs. And that's not the norm for me. I don't want that for you. So
I wouldn't do well in prison.
We need to take a moment, right, and see how we got here.
Yeah.
And we need to not be here again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I think she needed to do better at. She gave him a lot of passes, even when he got very disrespectful. And that grace is important.
Yeah.
But also, why can't you stop fighting me is one of her lines. Like, he said something very disrespectful. Why can't you stop fighting me? Yeah. Hey, that was very hurtful and unnecessary. And I see you going through it, but you don't get to treat me that way.
Correct.
You know, a little bit more ownership for her feelings.
Yeah.
As far as their marriage and why she stayed, foundation.
Yeah.
I think it was built on good foundation.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was always that way. I think he was going through something,
Yeah.
Which everyone is allowed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But how we handle it, the cause and response, is what a lot of people miss. He needed to slow down. He needed to communicate. He needed to include, right? And I probably needed to be, as Ruth, a little bit more accountable.
Yeah.
And communicative.
Yeah.
There is something to say about them being in a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe all these relationships are built on a strong, solid foundation.
Yeah.
I think it's why we work so really, really hard, and we stressed at the top of the play that we all love each other. Yeah. This is a normal back and forth, y'all two arguing, yada, 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 yada. This is a normal back and forth of you talking to Ruth, trying to get a little before work, right? And this is normal for Mama to come out, do her rounds, checking on the house. I think that foundation, and we're talking about prior to Travis being born, was that's what it was. And this is where we're gonna be, and this is what's gonna happen. I would imagine for Mama, there was even a time where it's like, I didn't get the house, but I can see my son and his new wife. Oh, they're gonna make it. They're gonna be fine. They're gonna fulfill those dreams that I had for myself.
Might you say dreams deferred?
And then life happens, and we all can attest to that in today's age, where I need to save away for this, or this happens, or this happens, and all the while beneath us growing up, they have Travis. Things keep getting pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, so that when we finally catch up to the family and we see them, ain't none of it happened. Nothing can harm you like losing your baby. Yeah. That's Mama's money, Walter. why don't nobody ever understand me? All of these things convalescing, and the fact that they've recently lost their father, we established mom is the only one who's like gone through the 5 stages.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that everybody else is somewhere else in that process.
Yeah.
You know? So it's prayer. Lots
Yeah.
of prayer.
Wow. So when you were just talking now, that just hit me then, like, this play is kind of like a display of the different stages of grief.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I'm glad you caught that.
Oh my guys, just come see this show.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of just that when a director is that methodical and just like digs beneath the surface so far that you're like touching the core of the earth almost, like, oh my God. Oh, I'm such a theater nerd. Okay, cool. Awesome.
You know, I didn't plan to ask this, but how long were you preparing to direct this show?
When you say prepare,
Well, I've talked to directors that
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I've loved this show for 10 years. I always
all
said,
right.
someday I'm going to direct
yeah.
that."
So all right. That's yeah. Okay. So back when PTP were in their play selection process, I was talking to a friend of mine who's on the board. We were in the talks and we were trying to figure out, because we wanted to have more diverse plays done at PTP. And I've done A Raisin in the Sun several times. So I have experience with it, intimate experience with it. I'm normally Walter. And so when the opportunity came up, I was like, yeah, sure, I'll direct it. And I was able to bring that knowledge to the show.
I'm so glad I asked that. I had no idea about this.
So that's kind of how that process came.
Hey, since we've got the 2 mics too, I might as well give you my last question too.
That worked out.
Now,
Worked out.
Without revealing too much of the plot, because you always try to avoid that, right?
Spoilers.
What do you think ultimately happened to this family after the curtain goes down and the show is over?
Yeah.
What happened to that family
Okay. So
from that?
this is always fun because Lorraine Hansberry, all writers do it. They insert themselves into whatever they're writing.
Mm-hmm.
Beneatha is our representation of Lorraine, right? Okay. So Lorraine is ultimately successful. Lorraine Hansberry, she wrote Raisin in the Sun. We're talking about it, doing it now. So she was successful, right? Yeah. Which means that by proxy, Beneatha becomes the doctor, and Beneatha is the success that gets the family to that next level. So I can't say what happens to everybody else. Everybody's got their own journey. Mm-hmm. But for sure, Auntie Beneatha and little Travis have a very bright future because we know that Lorraine actually became very, very famous because of the play. So
fantastic.
Yeah.
So what are your theories, though?
Theories?
Where each one would end at?
So I would imagine they move into the house. This is the house Mama passes, right? So she leaves it to Walter and Ruth and Travis. Beneatha goes off to school, and I would imagine she takes time off to go to Africa and soul search and have that experience. She's probably the only one in the family to actually go to Africa.
Does she marry the guy?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I don't either. I think she used to just like her ticket. Bye.
Free trip, okay. I can do that.
But I do believe she got that incredible experience. Became an esteemed doctor. You know what I mean? And then Travis, I would imagine, grew up to do something as well. I don't know. Our Travis actually wrote a story about the future of the family.
Oh.
I should probably make sure I refresh that before the end of the show. All that said, for sure, Beneatha was a success. I would imagine Walter and Ruth spent the rest of their lives in that house and then would have set it up so that Travis would have it. Or Ruth's baby would grow up and get the house between the baby and Travis. So that's the idea.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So how long does the show run?
Okay, so this show runs until May 19th.
Okay. So, and it's Friday,
Friday,
night, Saturday night, Sunday matinee.
Sunday matinees at 3 p.m.
Okay. Website is?
ptplayers.com.
I always stick on that too. Like, is it
Yo, I was about to
.org
say
or .com?
.org. Yeah, .com.
It's one of the two. Make sure you get your tickets. Do not miss this show. You've already sold out at least one performance, right?
The last Sunday is pretty close to being sold out.
And that's the first weekend. That shows you want to get your tickets now. Get down here, see the show. Bring the whole family.
Yeah.
Closing words, Lindsey?
Yes, closing words. Ooh, that's difficult. This has been lovely.
Then maybe we've said it all. So,
is there such a thing? I don't know.
we could keep going on and on about this.
All to say,
we love it so much.
In closing, guys, thank you so much for bringing this to Southern Maryland.
Yeah.
I read this play in high school, and even as a 17-year-old in high school reading it, I immediately just sitting there reading it going, oh my God. Oh my God. So this was my first time ever seeing it performed live on stage. Mm-hmm. And it's, this couldn't have been a more perfect way to first see the play come to life.
Oh yeah.
Truly. So yeah, thank you. I feel like I say this to a lot of the people that we interview, a lot of the artists, but truly from the bottom of my heart, what you guys have created is beautiful. Mm-hmm. And the wonderful thing about theater is that it's not like a movie. Mm-hmm. It doesn't live in perpetuity in a way that you can watch it whenever you want. Mm-hmm. The only way it lives is in people's memories.
Yeah, Andre and I were just saying that right before we started filming about it. I was still talking about Wait Until Dark. And he said, oh, I wish I would have seen that production of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, if only we could like record these things, it'd be amazing. But just shows you got to get your tickets. You got to get out to see live theater because when it's over. It's over.
Yeah,
right.
absolutely.
Till the next one.
Absolutely.
So speaking of which, everybody stay where you are because when we come back, we're going to talk about 5 more fun things you can do in Southern Maryland, even after you see this fine show. So don't go anywhere.
Stay right there. Welcome back. All right. You know what? Don't get me talking again about this interview because then I'll just keep talking and then
but you know, this half of the show portion of the show is to talk about other fun things that people can do in Southern Maryland. I wish I would have written some things down on yellow index cards so
that
I
would
would
have been
know
great.
what to tell. Wait a minute. Looks like somebody does have this information. Would you folks mind telling the viewers what else they can do in Southern Maryland?
Yeah.
And since I've got the mic, I'm going to pass it right over to Jeremy.
Sure. How about a New York City bus trip? Make this Mother's Day weekend memorable. Book today. Registration includes a seat on the bus. The day is yours to plan. Buses will leave from Leonardtown at the County Government Center promptly at 6 a.m. and will return by 12:30 a.m. They are scheduled to arrive in New York City around 11:30 a.m. and will depart by 7 p.m. The exact location for drop-off is determined by the bus company, but it will be in around Times Square. Questions about the trip, please contact St. Mary's County Government, May 11th at 5:30 a.m., May 12th, 12:30 a.m.
Very cool.
Yes. So that is so wonderful because as someone who loves to go to New York City a couple times a year, in order for me to go, I have to drive to DC or take the metro to DC, get on Amtrak at Union Station, and then ride the Amtrak, and it's a whole to-do. So to be in Southern Maryland and you just show up, get on a bus.
So there's no excuse not to go to New York City because they drive you.
Seriously.
What else we got to do?
Strawberry picking.
Yes.
Most should be already open. Check their websites or call them May, Calvert Swan Farms, Linda's Greenhouse, Jake's Produce, Charles Schlegel Farm.
Yeah, Schlegel. That's where I go.
Yeah, man. St. Mary's, Berrywood Farms, Forest Hall Farms and Orchard, Lyons Family Farms, Southern Comfort Berry Farm.
You just look those up, find out what the hours are, go pick some strawberries.
And yeah, seriously. So like Schlegel, that's where we always go. Schlegel Farms. It's so cool. It's one of those family owned for God knows how many generations. So when you get there, you drive literally they have a street called Schlegel something. Yeah. Yep. That was my thought too when I first got there. And they grow everything under the sun. They have farm animals. They have it's an event. And then they have a little trailer where they have strawberry desserts that you can buy that are made with the strawberries that are grown on the premises.
That's right.
Right?
Never staying inside again.
Right? Oh my God, yes.
Amazing.
And like they will update you throughout like the year on their social media, like, oh, this is where the strawberries are at. And they literally, the plants that they do every year, they send the plant off to like somewhere, like a lab that analyzes it to make sure it's like the best strawberry.
Oh.
And then those are the strawberries that get planted. So, and I'm sure they're not the only ones that do it. So like, seriously, guys, go pick your strawberries. All right.
That's product placement.
What you got, Dion?
All right. Groovespan will perform live music at Perigo Vineyards and Winery in St. Leonard, Maryland on Sunday, May 12th, 2024, from 2 to 6 p.m. No cover charge.
Yay.
We love that.
The Groovespan duo plays a mix of jazz, blues, folk, and light pop music, located at 8650 Mackle Road, St. Leonard, Maryland.
And Jennifer
Yes.
Cooper, who is half of Groovespan, really good friend of mine, and I've interviewed her like 12 times at least. She will be on the podcast probably soon.
Pretty
right?
soon,
Lindsey, we'll
yeah.
book that. So, because they always have gigs, always. So, if you missed that one, don't worry, you can see him again.
And remember, it's wine and music.
Oh, yeah.
That's literally my favorite combination.
What you got, Dre?
All right. May 10th through the 12th, Viking Axe Throwing is coming to 141 Schooner Lane, Prince Frederick, Maryland. Come out and see how many bullseyes you can hit or cheer on the other warriors. For Mother's Day weekend, we're hosting Viking Axe Throwing all weekend. Help Mom work off some of the frustration. Buy a sword and shield package for the kids to decorate. And moms throw for free.
Yes.
This event is weather dependent. In the case of inclement weather, it will not occur.
You know, I've done axe throwing, but then
my
the
God.
divorce lawyer said, cut it out and sit down.
Oh my God.
Look at Angela, she's like, is that true?
Welcome to James.
My head, welcome.
It's the final event.
Night at the Museum for Friends with Disabilities on Friday, May 17th, 2024, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Free event. The Calvert Marine Museum and Grounds will be open exclusively for all guests with disabilities and their families, friends, or caregivers. This event is co-hosted by Calvert County Parks and Recreation, Therapeutic Recreation Services. Enjoy the skates and raise, fish, fossils, and maritime history in a relaxed and supportive environment. Learn about river otters and meet Bubbles, our otter mascot. Poppy the opossum will make an appearance. Explore the Discovery Room and Boat Basin. Take a relaxing 30-minute cruise aboard the WMB Tennyson at 5 p.m., 5:45 p.m., or 6:30 p.m. Pre-registration is required for each person to ride the WMB Tennyson.
There's always something going on down at Calvert Marine Museum.
Oh, I love
but
it
I
there.
just thought that this was so nice that they just opened the place.
Yeah.
So if you got a disability, bring your family, your caregivers.
I love
the
it.
place is yours.
Which means that, it's also going to be sensory friendly, which I think is so important. I mean, as somebody who is neurodiverse, and I have, kids that are too, it's so great that somewhere as amazing as the Calvert Marine Museum has a special night dedicated to people with different needs.
Yeah.
So,
On
yeah.
that note,
On that note, guys, this is the end of the episode, right? And what we always do here at the ArtsFam podcast is we invite you guys, you wonderful, beautiful human beings, that if you want to support this podcast, if you love what we're doing and you think more people need to see this, there are some awesome free ways that you can support us. So anywhere you see this video, like, comment, share. The more engagement that this video gets, good, bad, indifferent, whatever it is, the algorithm gods, they don't care. Just engage with it.
and you know what? You can send it to your friends out of the area too. And
Yes.
encourage them to come down to Southern Maryland.
Yes.
And as a final note, just so we leave on a laugh,
Okay.
Jeremy and I have been friends for many years, and I found a photo of Jeremy and myself from 2010 on stage. Lindsay, if you wouldn't mind
Oh.
putting that right up there.
Honey, I will. Oh my God, that's
And
everything.
There's your laugh for the day. So come out, see the show, and we'll see you next week.
As always, thank you so much, you beautiful human beings, for joining us on the ArtsFam podcast. We'll see you next week.